What's up, editors? Patrick here with Vetted. Timestamps are down below if you want to skip around. We've got a lot to cover. Let's jump in.
But she believed that I've read her books and her diaries, and she believed that she was traveling over the earth and she could see the spinning earth under her on the wings of angels. And she would come down into the American Southwest and teach these people about Jesus and so forth, and then go back.
Where did she travel from?
She traveled from her cell. She's a nun in Spain.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So
it's
she
really
flies
crazy.
across the planet.
Yeah, she flies across the planet. And in her diaries, she discusses everything. She discusses the people that she met, one of whom didn't have sight in one eye. And this is corroborated by the Spanish missionary, whose name escapes me at the moment, who describes the same guy. Anyway, so a lot of people won't believe this story, but this story is so fascinating and fascinated me. So I was there to look at her story. And strangely, it was in the same area that Tyler had taken me to when we went and looked for UFO debris. And so it didn't occur to me until I was actually there in the Vatican. And then I thought about it and I was like, she was there. She was in that same area. And I thought it was a strange coincidence. So I remember looking at Tyler at the time and I said, do you realize that she was, and he just didn't want to talk about it. He was his face got, I'm not talking about that. And I was like, okay.
I bet that whole section has very interesting stories in it.
I think so, yeah.
Madre mía, me cago en la leche. Okay, so basically, Diana Pasulka went on The Basement, right? It's the Y-Files podcast that they have, did a phenomenal interview. And this clip was interesting. It's kind of making the rounds. She's essentially talking about a nun from Spain, okay, that was flying around the world at night, right, and then returning back home, right? So she would fly out and, I guess, perform miracles or something or help people. I mean, basically a superhero. That's what she's describing, right? And apparently this nun, okay, from Spain went to the same area where Diana was taken by Tim Taylor. She refers to him as Tyler in this interview, but we all know it's Tim Taylor. Gets taken by Tim Taylor out to the desert, right, to find UFO debris. It's where the story of where she got blindfolded with Gary Nolan and all that. So she's saying this nun also visited this location that Tyler didn't want to talk about it. You know, oh my God, that means there's something else. That means there's something deeper. I mean, you know, I don't know what to think of this story. Is a nun flying around at night sound cool? Sure. Did it happen? Probably not. Right? And the fact that it was in the same location as where she got, this UFO debris, I mean, that's a whole rabbit hole of a story to get down. There's no UFO debris where she was taken. So, but regardless, very interesting interview. I highly recommend it. Diana Pasulka is always fun to listen to. She's very passionate about the topic. That is for sure. So anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments. Let's move on.
Actually, somebody who's really up on, I think he's responsible for a lot of modern disclosure, but he's blown by a lot of people, is Tom DeLonge, the Blink-182.
Crazy, right?
He's
I thought he was a loon when he came on my show. But more and more as time has gone on, the things that he said have been proven to be true.
Totally. And now, and I don't want to talk too much out of turn, but because I'm friends with him, and he has some really interesting theories around consciousness and how these events sort of occur when things are really unstable. So either to discard things that are unstable and that are threatening to sort of the system, a la nuclear, or to save something that is essential to preserve the system. So it's almost this regulatory thing. It's really fascinating. It's he's now miles ahead of, I think where a lot of,
to me, I was always okay, why are they bringing Tom DeLonge in to have conversations? And now, he was being sort of briefed by very high-level intelligence people. right?
Yeah, yeah, and that whole story of the To the Stars Academy is a strange, interesting.
It's all
story.
fucking weird. It's also weird that you would get the fucking drummer or the what did he do in Blink-182?
I think he was a front man. I think
Frontman, yeah, not the drummer. That was Travis, obviously. Like that, you get a guy who's a big time rock star.
He was obsessed his entire life, and I think. So, yeah, I think he was surrounded by some very interesting people and in certain cases, not so savory people, to be totally honest. Yeah, or just people who are associated with sort of
misinformation.
Yeah, or like, James Clapper, who probably lied in front of Congress about wiretapping. So, like, why should we trust on the UFO stuff, And I'm not saying that, Tom was necessarily, I don't know who exactly he was in touch with, but I think it was like that crowd of people. But I think what people don't understand, and this is what I pieced together from just knowing him, I think he has sort of vigilante gotten in touch with a lot of these people like shut the door in his face, and he's like, no, I'll fly out there and I'll do anything, and like I'll help like communicate this way. I know you guys have been trying to communicate this forever to the public, and like maybe I can help or whatever. And I think a lot of it just stemmed from his desire to know and his like true passion for this that started from when he was a kid, and that was like super organic.
But you also have to think, like, if you wanted to get a narrative out there, what better way than get a really famous rock star? And feed him some horse shit.
Yeah, it's possible.
I mean?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but also if you read Secret Machines, I think there's a lot. Then that's, he's written some books, actually. And if you read the books, there's some really interesting things kind of hidden in plain sight that end up getting corroborated in my own open source research. So I'll give you an example. He says that a UFO possibly came out of the sky during a high-altitude nuclear test in the Marshall Islands in the early 60s. So these are these famous, Bikini Atoll, Johnston Atoll, Operation Dominic tests. And he called it, during the Starfish Prime series. And I thought that, that was nuts. Like, what are you talking, like a UFO came out of the plume? I know they show up around nuclear sites, but really, did the UFO come out of the plume? So I end up interviewing this guy. He's a presidential advisor to JFK, LBJ, Nixon, and Ford. And he is 89 years old. Completely like sharp as a tack, like with it, and just has this elite kind of macro kind of exact picture of the world in his head. I think he worked closely with Kissinger and like just really knew his sort of stuff when it came to just prosaic conventional political trends, outside of UFO stuff. And he had been tweeting some interesting things about UFOs. And then he starts going into this story, and I'm like, what? Like, so he goes, I was in charge of the cost assessment for one of these high altitude nuclear tests. It's called the Bluegill Triple Prime test, part of the Starfish Prime series in 1962 in October, actually during the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was October 25th. And he goes, we didn't have any way to defend against Soviet ICBMs at the time, so we... Exactly.
This is a GIF playing. I can't control the video, so I was trying to.
So this is the video of the test, and that white triangle was superimposed on, and that's the UFO falling out of the plume, which is insane.
So explain it again.
Okay, so basically,
what's falling out of the plume?
A possible UFO
thing?
object. Yeah, that thing.
Well, you know about...
I mean, one of his sources is this general who's now missing, William Neal McCaslin, who was in charge of the entire Special Access Program Oversight Committee. And what he told Tom is, he goes, you want to know about the UFO issue? All you're going to find are a bunch of blind men touching different parts of an elephant, which is, I think, the whole fallacy of modern UFO disclosure. It's not like there's this line in the sand, oh, here's the truth, we're going to give it to you. It's like, oh, we have this program here and this program here, and we're testing this stuff, but we don't really understand what it is, and it's kind of confusing. And so, okay, so...
All right, so what do you guys think about Tom DeLonge, right? If you remember the first time he was on Joe Rogan, Joe basically treated him like he was a crazy person, right? And now Joe is admitting that a lot of the stuff Tom said had come true. But again, a lot of people feel Tom was used during the To the Stars Academy and used and abused and set aside and kind of left the topic. But actually, we found out recently he hasn't left the topic at all. Allegedly, he is, consulting with the U.S. government for these tranches that are getting released, all these files that are getting released. Apparently, Tom DeLonge is consulting with that, whatever that means. But it's interesting to hear Joe go back on this interview because it was a very famous interview. And he never had Tom DeLonge on again. So I think a lot of us would like to see a Joe Rogan, Tom DeLonge reunion. I think it would be a phenomenal interview, and hopefully they will make that happen, which would be really, really cool. So let me know what you think down in the comments about Tom DeLonge, the Joe Rogan interview, and just Tom DeLonge's, his journey in the UFO topic. Do you think he was used? Do you think he did some good? Do you think he hurt the topic? Let me know what you think in the comments. I've got another Jesse clip here from him going on Joe Rogan. These are brand new clips. He just did an interview. So check this out.
Yeah. What is your take on Whitley Strieber?
I think I love Whitley as a person, and I think again, it's probably one of those things where in upstate New York, as he describes in Communion, something probably happened. He probably is one of these people who, if we are nodes of consciousness that attract, either very normal things or weird things based on our aperture and our sort of understanding of reality, his is wide open. He is extremely high in the openness category. And I think that's where things get kind of sticky with some of these sort of super experiencers, because I think they are often very credulous, but that goes hand in hand with having a lot of weird experiences. And so I think Whitley's gotten stuff wrong. I do. Hopefully don't come down on me, UFO community, for saying that. I think he has said some wacky things that I'm like
what?
Well, we talked about one of them. I don't know if you remember that.
Which one was it?
It was like he said that there was a fly.
I remember that one. Yeah, I brought that one up before because I remember watching a video. I'm like, okay, what are you doing? Because there was a fly. He's like, is that a man in a suit? I remember that. And I was like, wait, I can't find that video, by the way. I've tried very hard to find that video after the fact.
I think very strange stuff does go on. You know what he says? He says, I was picked as a node for disclosure because of it would be plausibly deniable. It's what you're talking about, where he was this horror writer. He was a fiction writer before he had his encounter.
Which is also part of the problem.
It's part of the problem.
An incredible imagination.
For sure. And then it's also part of his ability to decide. It's why Communion was a bestseller. So it's this weird, it creates this sort of cult-like mythology. And then I know a lot of experiencers where I'm like, I know that, I really believe them, that they've had experiences with, Greys specifically. And it's a very common trope that they'll walk by Communion in a Barnes & Noble bookstore and it'll freak them out. And that will be their own hypnotic regression. They'll be like, oh, they've never seen a Gray before. And that's the first time they've seen a Gray.
Yeah, the cover of the book is amazing.
It's amazing.
All right, so this is an interesting clip. This is Joe and Jesse talking about Whitley Strieber, right, who put out a book called Communion, was a science fiction writer who then claimed to all of a sudden have these wild alien experiences. And he's been adding to them since he had his first experience. This isn't someone who just had an experience and has been talking about it for a long time. Someone like, Travis Walton or something, right? Whitley is all of a sudden, he's having multiple communications. He's communicating with his wife that passed away. He's got an implant now. All of a sudden, he can communicate with the entities. Again, lots of abductions. It's just this one story that sort of spirals out of control. And you hear this a lot in the community. You hear of this a lot. And a lot of people think that what happens is someone enters the UFO community with a genuine experience, right? They have this one genuine experience. Then over time, you go to enough conferences, you go on enough podcast interviews, you tell that same story over and over again. What starts to happen? You want to offer something new on the menu, right? You want to offer something new. So now you start adding details. You start having other experiences, right? And that's kind of what happens. I think somebody coined it, the UFO disease. I don't know. So again, can start genuine and end corrupted for many different reasons. Ego, insecurity, you start to get known, you start to become a celebrity, UFO celebrity, and that can start to affect And it sounds like Joe and Jesse are sort of commenting on Whitley Strieber potentially being one of these people. So what do you think? Let me know down in the comments. I did try to find this fly video because I've also seen Whitley have some crazy videos, literally dust that's in the air, dust. He'll be saying they're orbs. So, and I think this is what they're getting at. You know, it just becomes too ridiculous. You want to take the person seriously, but they just go too far, right? And I tried to find that video that they're talking about with the fly and all that. I couldn't find it at all. Searched, could not find it. But I was able to find this.
My impression was that they were insects. That was why I thought at first I was having some kind of a nightmare. The one that started to come around the house the most in the years to follow the experience in '85 looked like someone who was about maybe a fourth human, but she had a big head and big black eyes and a long thin nose and a little mouth, and she could make a cry, but she couldn't speak or warble or anything. She could go, oh, like that. And it could be when she did it loudly or powerfully, it was very, very intense.
Were they malevolent?
They were doing a job.
So I think it just gives you kind of a sense of Whitley and maybe what they said he was talking about. But regardless, you know, what do you think of Whitley Strieber? Let me know down in the comments. Let's move on to the next clip.
One night, Colin and I were with this lady, Jessica. I think we talked about her in one of the interviews, CIA gal. And boy, was she alive and worried one night. When we were out walking around, she was really super agitated. I'm just enjoying the evening. I think this is really great. And then that's the time that Colin, there were three of us, and he saw that animal. Very
the dino
unusual,
beaver.
Yeah, very unusual animal walking by. And but other people had all kinds of different reactions. I really slept great. I was energized. I thought, boy, this is a great place.
It seems like whatever's there responds to what you bring to the party. You know, I'm always trying to be respectful, get my head in the right place when I go there, and I'm just here to learn. And I have noticed it seems to be a trend that over the years, the badasses are the ones that have the most problems. People who are tough guys, they're strapping with guns, they're intelligent people, ex-military cops. I don't know. You find anything to that?
Yeah, a lot of, I mean, whatever is at play at Skinwalker Ranch has the ability to immediately scan someone's consciousness and immediately discern their intent, even read their mind. And that's why we caution everyone before entering that they need to prepare themselves spiritually. They need to enter with a spirit of humility and reverence, because whatever we're dealing with is 2 steps ahead of us and can already sense and understand your intent and react to it negatively if there is an adversarial spirit or intention.
All right, so Robert Bigelow is back in his podcast with, I think this is episode number 4, with Brandon Fugal. So the former owner of Skinwalker Ranch, Bigelow, and the current owner of Skinwalker Ranch, Fugal, right? And they sat down. George Knapp joined them, and they had a fascinating conversation. Apparently, this is part 1 of 2. There's another part coming out. But in this clip, yeah, so they talk about the famous dino beaver that allegedly Colm Kelleher saw. I love that only one person saw it, then he told the other people. If someone in my group told me they saw something like that, I'd be like, okay, dude, right? I mean, I don't know. Is Skinwalker Ranch this weird place? They seem to think so. They've got a lot of stories to back it up. And I will admit it is an interesting place. A lot of stories have come out of there about a lot of different things. I mean, I myself have visited Bradshaw Ranch, which is allegedly a ranch just like this, right? With a lot of crazy things happening. I mean, people say they saw dinosaurs at the ranch that I went to, Bradshaw Ranch. So, you know, it's essentially a ranch with, you know, strange properties, if you will. So what do you think of Skinwalker Ranch? You know, is it this weird place where weird things happen? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Got one more clip. This is a Brandon Fugal talking about a discovery they made on there that, if true, is fascinating.
We had the reports of large wolf-like creatures that would actually exit, the area of the homesteads and go down toward the creek, and were never seen again. And of course, you know what happened when we went down to explore Dry Gulch Creek.
You found one.
We found the carcass, the decomposing carcass of an unusually large wolf-like creature, and the teeth, in particular, the jawbone, the teeth were very, very unusual. And we took samples, even though the guys were gagging. I mean, it was covered with maggots and decomposing there in the water, right on the edge of the creek. Thank goodness. I mean, they had the presence of mind to take a sample, to cut off a piece of its jaw, and to be able to bag it. They had Ziploc bags with them and put it in a protective bag to have it analyzed. And when we had our biologist, Ben Woodruff, analyze it, he was shocked to find out that the direct match, I mean, we're talking direct match to this jawbone, was an over 10,000-year-old extinct direwolf. And he was stunned. We were stunned. But what it did, George, is it actually added absolute validity to what many people believe to be fantastical accounts of large wolf-like creatures that were impervious to gunshots.
Yeah. All right, so Fugal here talks about them finding a direwolf, which is an animal that's been extinct for thousands of years. And they're saying that they found one there on Skinwalker Ranch. I mean, if that's true, that is crazy. That wouldn't make any sense. But what's interesting is, why the direwolf? Why did they find that? That's what's so interesting, because it actually hasn't been that long, but those direwolves have been resurrected. They've been brought back. They were extinct, but they have been brought back very recently. So what are the odds? You bring them back, and now they're finding them at Skinwalker Ranch. That's a red flag for me, right? So, and if you may be wondering, what do you mean they're back, Patrick? Direwolves are back. Take a look at this.
We turn now to that remarkable scientific breakthrough. 13,000 years after the last direwolf walked the earth, scientists say they've now brought them back. Here's our chief national correspondent back up and with the video tonight.
Tonight, a howl 13,000 years in the making. In a first for science, biotech company Colossal Biosciences says it brought the extinct direwolf back to life, a species that hasn't walked the earth since the Stone Age.
The direwolf is the first de-extinct species.
Well known from HBO's hit show Game of Thrones, ABC News given exclusive access into Colossal's lab in Dallas, where scientists are using genes from gray wolves to create dire wolves.
We've taken a gray wolf genome, a gray wolf cell, which is already genetically 99.5% identical to dire wolves, and we've edited those cells at multiple places in its DNA sequence to contain the dire wolf version of the DNA. That animal looks like a dire wolf, it will behave like a dire wolf, and it is a dire wolf.
Now, 7 months old, dire wolves Romulus and Remus eating well and getting bigger every day.
And David, the company tells us they're not stopping there. They plan to have woolly mammoths roaming the earth again by 2028. But critics argue that this de-extinction could harm fragile ecosystems. David? Yeah, the images are really something, Matt. Thank you.
So again, I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments about this direwolf at Skinwalker Ranch. Let's move on.
A little bit of a reveal here. We're going to make some news. And I want to bring this up now because I do want to spend some time on it before we're done today. And that is the fact that you and I, along with a team, have been working together on a little project. And this goes back to something that I mentioned here on the show a couple of weeks ago, a week or two ago, where it was actually the day of the latest government tranche release, which I believe was last week as we sit here speaking right now. And I mentioned, you know what, I think it's time to put out there that I do have like a solid handful or 2 handfuls of videos that I received from military intel sources that show, very strange things flying in the air. Some are full color, full definition, showing, straight up an orb flying against the clear blue sky. Others are FLIR footage of things that we cannot explain. And those videos were presented to me in, a legal, non-classified way. They're not classified videos, so nobody was breaking any rules or anything. They're just videos that people haven't seen before. And so I made it known for the first time that I'm in possession of those. And then the question becomes, well, why aren't you putting those out? So there's been a lot of things that have happened in the past when it comes to trying to put those videos out. A lot of brick walls that I ran into personally. A lot of conversations behind the scenes that prevented those things from coming out. I want to make it known that I'm trying to have that happen where everybody can see these. I'm not holding them to myself just to, hold up a flag and say, look at me, cool guy with videos. That's not the goal here. The goal is to put these out so people can see them. And what ended up happening as we went down the road over months was I ended up talking to you about it. I ended up talking to a couple of guys on the team at the Disclosure Foundation saying, hey, how about we try to put this together to have these videos come out through Pursue and send it over to Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and the Department of National Intelligence. And let's put this information out there that we're trying to get these released. And we put this information out there even to congressional offices, including to kind of sign off on it so we can put this out there that we know these are there and we're trying to get these out through you guys. So I guess I bring this to you now, Jordan, that's kind of revealing that we've been working on this together. Did I miss anything? And what else do you think is important to say on this so people know what's going on?
Well, I think the first thing I would say is thank you for being a good partner in these efforts. Having discretion, not being sensationalistic, trying to be extremely careful with how these things are handled, how they're presented, and how they're ultimately framed for communication with members in Congress, and then ultimately for the people in the Pursue program. So I'm very grateful for that. I think that is evidence of being like a good trusted partner who level-headed, that builds a lot of trust with like your current sources, and I think it demonstrates a significant amount of potential trust for future sources you might have that they want to come for you or come through you, I should say, and then frankly demonstrates a degree of efficacy in what you're doing. And so to the extent that you've been a delight to work with there, and it's an honor to help you, and however we can be helpful as an organization, we certainly want to be, as we sort of bridge things like this that come across with members of Congress to try to make sure that they get to the right place and ultimately get out there one way or another. Right.
Yeah.
So
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Just a lot of gratitude there. That's how we like to operate.
All right. So this is Stephen Diener on the UAP podcast. And great guy. Stephen's a great guy. And he's saying he had some videos. He was given some videos, and now he wants to release them the proper way through Pursue and all of this. And I guess he's working here with Jordan Flowers, who is the director of the Disclosure Foundation. And so it sounds like, what are these videos that are going out, right? Will we get to see them? Are they remarkable? I do find this to be an interesting process. Nothing against Stephen. I love Stephen to death. Such a great guy. My only question would be, why are people bringing him videos? Or any podcaster, right, like this, these official videos? I don't know. It's just weird. but doesn't mean it's not valid. I don't know. So we'll have to wait and see if these videos come out. It sounds like they'll come out in a future tranche, which, by the way, we may be getting one tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. If there is a tranche that drops tomorrow, I am going to do a live stream like I've done all of them. So just be ready for that. But we'll have to wait and see these videos. So what do you think? It's more, should these be, the question I'm asking from showing this clip for me personally is, should these videos be passed around to podcasters like this behind the scenes, right? Because maybe Steven is handling it right, but maybe others wouldn't. I don't know. Again, they're clearly not classified, so it doesn't matter. I don't know. I mean, if it doesn't show anything remarkable, if it doesn't prove aliens, then I don't really care. Whatever. Let them share videos and show videos and whatever. What does it mean? So anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments. We'll see you guys in the next one. Remember, Vedas, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.